research is about trademarks and their use in creative industries. Trademarks are the legal counterparts of brands. They are any signs, from words to images to sounds, that can be used to identify products or services in a specific market. The reason why I'm interested in trademarks is that they can be used to measure innovation, in particular non-technological forms of innovation. We have already quite some empirical evidence for manufacturing and for some service sectors that indeed trademarks can help to measure innovation. Unfortunately, we lack empirical evidence for the case of the creative industries. For the creative project, I've investigated the use of trademarks by companies in creative industries. I'm interested in their motives for trademarking, as well in their motives for not trademarking. And I'm also interested in the effects of the use of trademarks and in the policy implications of all this. I've identified 3 sets of reasons why companies would want to use trademarks in the creative industries. A first set of reasons relates to the very properties of creative work and specifically of the knowledge involved in creative industries. Creative work is often highly intangible, and the knowledge is often tacit and of a symbolic nature. Since trademarks are also symbols, they are signs, they can be used to identify and communicate the value of creative work. The second set of reasons relates to the very economic properties of markets in creative industries. These markets are typically characterized by high information asymmetries. So it's quite hard for clients and users of creative work to judge the value of creative work in advance. And so trademarks can be used by companies to enhance marketing activities. A final set of reasons relates to the idea that companies might want to use trademarks to strengthen their position with respect to external parties, including suppliers, investors, or competitors. So I've surveyed close to 500 firms in several different creative industries, ranging from advertising to media. And I found that companies rank protection and marketing motives highest. I've also found that few companies register trademarks with the idea of using them to strengthen their position with respect to external parties. I found that most companies in my sample actually do not use any trademarks. So I was interested in understanding the motives for not trademarking. And I identified here 4 sets of reasons. Firstly, they might not have any knowledge of trademarks. Secondly, trademarks might not fit their business strategy. Thirdly, they might have considered trademarks, but the net economic benefits of using trademarks were too low. And lastly, they might be using other forms of intellectual property rights, in particular copyrights, design rights, or possibly even patents. My findings indicate that the last reason is actually the most important one, as most companies use copyrights instead of trademarks. My findings are useful for policymakers. One important lesson is that companies choose to use trademarks because of their signaling value. If this is the case, the value of trademarks should be protected. Initiatives aimed at lowering the barriers to registration for trademarks might work as counterproductive. Fundamentally, they would decrease the value of each individual trademark. A second important lesson, or maybe policy provocation, is that I found that many companies are doing just fine without using trademarks. In this sense, pushing the use of intellectual property rights for the sake of it in all creative industries might actually be rather inefficient. Most firms in my sample indicated that they are quite satisfied with the use of copyrights alone. And further research could look at the synergies between use of trademarks and use of copyrights for some of the companies in the creative industries.